I'm your summer host, Eric Pepper, and my faculty at San Francisco State for the Institute of Holistic Health Studies. The purpose of this program is to share pragmatic self-care skills to help us stay healthy during this very challenging time. The program is sponsored by the Institute for Holistic Health Studies, the Department of Recreation, Parks, Tourism, and Holistic Health, all part of San Francisco State. And now I'm really honored to introduce our speaker for today, a friend, colleague, and co-researcher. It's Aiko Yoshino. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Recreation, Parks and Tourism and Holistic Health at San Francisco State. And her scholarly agenda is rooted in holistic health impact of the exposure to nature. And the data, in fact, is remarkable that nature in a way boosts your immune system. And her research includes the psychological resilience gained through extended wilderness-based programs as well as nature-based interventions for marginalized communities, so important for today, to prevent chronic illnesses. She's initially from Japan and is a enthusiastic educator and also a mother. On that note, Aiko, let me turn the control over to you.
Hello, my name is Aiko Yoshino at San Francisco State University. Thank you, Dr. Pepper, for introducing me to this opportunity to share my passion. And thank you all for the coordination to make this happen. This title is called Soaking in the Benefits of Nature During the Pandemic. And I have to say first, thank you for joining. So let's get us started. And then we're going to start with the quick activity, virtual exercise that I prepare that has 2 layers. First one is a sound escape. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes and listen to different type of sounds. And both of them will be sounded once in 20 seconds. And I would like you to capture the moments and ask yourself how you feel in response to the sound. And go ahead and close your eyes if you're ready. And I'm going to start and say. So you might be familiar with the sound or might heard if you live in an urban environment. And let's hear the second sound B. Great. So those are the 2 sounds. Let me ask, which sound did you like more? How many of you like the sound B, the second one with the bird song? Yes. Excellent. The majority basically said yes, liking the sound B, the nature sound. So no wonder you are here. Let's try another experiment. So I will be again showing 2 sets of picture. And I'd like you to take a look at that picture about 10 seconds each. All right. And this time you'll be opening your eyes, looking at the pictures very carefully. And the goal is that you imagine that you are actually in that place, so that hopefully some emotion and a feeling and something comes to your mind that is, you could associate with the photos. Okay, so that was the first 2 sets, first 2 photos. The set B, okay, Okay. So that's about the 10 seconds for each of the photos. How are you feeling now? How many of you liked the first photo with the more the urban setting, with the buildings and cars, people? Hmm. How about how many of you liked more a photo of flowers and ocean with the beach? Yes. Today, what I'd like to see this presentation to be is reaching these three learning outcomes, desired outcomes. One is for us to really learn about what's the updates on the research relation to health benefits of nature. So the more we know what's happening, why nature, what is influencing, how the nature is influencing our body in terms of the benefits, what it is actually getting out of the exposure to nature. I believe that we can be more conscious, we can make a better decisions on our daily life. Number two is exploring what makes nature beneficial for our health. So, which is already start talking about this sound escape, visuals. Those are some of the important aspects of nature that is benefiting our well-being. Finally, to discuss a little bit about strategies or ways to maximizing our health benefits through time in nature. That said, please remember that this presentation is not just a one-way street. I'm hoping to see some collaborative exercises between you and me and among each other. So please feel free to use a chat. And many of the activity we do is a challenge by choice. So you could opt in, opt out based on your desire. So here's one of the other activities I would like you to invite. How often for you spending time in nature, that might including going to park, going to beach, it could be taking a hike. This does not include organized sports like a baseball, basketball. So go ahead and respond. What is the national data says? It's actually said about 74% of the population are seems to be spending time in outdoor setting for free time once a month at a minimum. But 1 in 6 adults reported that never spending free time in nature. Well, obviously, there are a lot of other things to do, and there's maybe constraints of access to nature, physical disabilities, maybe don't know where to go, and so on and so on. So one of the interesting piece to highlight is the group that said most likely that said that never spending free time in nature include three group of categories that's rated pretty high, which is older folks age 65 and plus, and low income households, usually 25,000 or lower in a household income, and last is African American. And the last two pieces I'm very much concerned, particularly in the current condition and discussions that are happening in Black Lives Matter. And I want to be clear that this is not just a racial concern. It's about systematic racism, systematic economical disparities that's impacting on this aspects of exposure to nature and time spending free time in a natural environment. So that's my analysis. I have to write a probably research paper for that. Move on to the next topics, sort of why we need to talk about even important talk about this nature in relation to health. Well, I'm going to just highlight a few pieces, which is about the chronic disease in America that is very much concerning. 6 in 10 adults in the US have chronic disease. 4 in 10 adults in the US have 2 or more disease. And you can see the number of dollars that are going to healthcare system. It is concern. And leading to this chronic disease is something that we perhaps already know. Some other facts, such as adults, 2 in 3, about approximately adults are overweight or obese. 1 in 5 United citizen adults experience mental illness. And also children, there are very concerning conditions. 1 in 3 of them are overweight or obese, and a minority and low-income children disproportionately affected. So that's something that we really, again, need to be mindful and be advocates uh, to make a changes in terms of access and inviting and allow all of us to have a healthy lifestyle. And one of the pieces that I'd like to highlight, 2 more pieces. 1 in 5 children has had a serious mental health at some point in their life. So again, ratio is very high. This number perhaps is increasing during a time of pandemic. Kids spend how many hours in front of a screen? Well, there's a multiple studies. It's about the 7.5 to 11 hours a day with various electronic media, which equates about 114 full days per year for kids aged 8 to 18 are spending time in front of a screen, some sort of remote devices. This is alarming concern, particularly for me as an outdoor educator. Suicide rate is the number 2 leading cause of suicide is the number 2 leading cause of death for people aged between 10 to 34. So again, it is much needed to talk about diseases, current health facts that's concerning, exposure to the screen that it is perpetuating even more due to the pandemic. And on top of that, adults, including kids and young adults, is facing many other stressors, from grieving to jobs, friends zooming, depressed, watching too much of media. So yes, more than ever, discussion about how can be an advocate for yourself, ourselves, to make a changes in our lifestyles. And in this case, in particular, this presentation, learning about the health impacts of nature is much needed. So just a little break here. What do you think about this evolutionary progression? Maybe, how many of you here are actually towards the last stage of the progression, maybe hunched over computer, and maybe some of you feel like, oh, I'm still at home, or still in shelter in place. Yes, kitchens are right, 3 steps away from my desk. Maybe you are eating more. So something to watch out. We do concern, and then you're the one making differences, hopefully for you not only, but the people who you love. So let's dive in. The health benefits of nature, which many of you perhaps know what it is, but I'd like to split into 2 different categories. One is the physical health benefits, another one is mental health. And I would like to talk about both the studies being done focusing on adults and studies being done looking at the kids, young youth, kids population, children's population. So physical health. Many of the studies, majority of it's done in urban planning to environmental psychologies, but really about number 1 coming up is physical activity levels go up by being in outdoor or living in close to green space. And rates of cardiovascular disease has declines, and lower rates of childhood asthma, and also lower rates of obesity, as well as lower rates of mortality. These are all related to how far, how much you have exposure to the green space. And generally, many of a study is done how far away from a green space, such as a park, open space, and so on. So you are more exposed to green area or green space, you are highly likely to high likelihood to get these benefits, which is I call it privileged. And but again, each individual need to take action on this. As about how about for kids? In the next couple of slides, I'd like to share this beautifully designed infographic by the Children's Nature Network, and they are focusing on exposure to nature for kids. And if you are working in that population, that their work is absolutely stunning. So let's just go over a little bit about this. And something that say similar theme that I'm finding is that what do you find adults? Most likely you're also finding it in the kids. And there's some differences and similarities, but let's check it out. So one, again, increase the physical activity level and reducing the risk of obesity by your having access to parks and a green space. Outdoor play increases likelihood that girls will remain active into adolescence. This has been pointing out much of concern in the study of physical activity that the girls tend to stagnate once they hit the teen or before teens to reduce the number of physical activity level. So, you know, with my daughter, I definitely use this to get outside as much as possible right now so that later on their adolescence that they continue to be physically active. And this is probably helpful for your family, for your nieces, for your relatives. Children are better able to cope with the stress when they live near tree and other greenway. Something to keep in mind. Kids have a different type of stresses, and it is important for them to give that option to get outside. Benefits are not only kids, but the baby, actually a healthy baby and a mother. Nature exposure for mother can promote better fetal growth, healthier birth weights. So again, not only for kids, but the adults who are carrying a baby. And nature contact is especially beneficial for mothers of lower education and the socioeconomic levels. So again, coming back to the health disparity concerns, the reality is that a lot of time they are low-income households may not have easy access to nature, but our designing of the park, designing a city needs to be mindful about this so that we can remove those constraints to travel, constraints to find the time to spend time in natural environment. The last portion of physical health benefits that I wanted to highlight is something you probably know. That it is by spending time in a bright light, natural light environment, reducing nearsightedness and increasing the vitamin D levels. Your grandma used to say, get outside, get a vitamin D's. Yes, those are important. In terms of reducing nearsightedness, time that we've been spending in front of screen time is increasing. So having a chance again outside or viewing your nature through your windows or through, outside sceneries is helpful for your eyes, particularly when we have issue with the vision. So let's move on to mental health. Okay, there's a lots of lists in here because that's one of my interests as well. So I broke down to three areas: emotion and mood aspects, and stress, which is more psychological aspect beyond the feelings. And then last piece is the memory and learning. And each of the areas I've been finding that quite a bit of studies being done. And emotion moods, you see as a result of exposure, be in natural environment, positive mood, relaxation, sense of happiness has gone up. This is usually done by sort of a self-reported survey, and then also the reduction of anger and sadness, depression. So again, it's very interesting finding, and it's helpful for us to know. Stress aspects, reduction of stress, buffer from stress, and recovery from stress being reported. And this is important, particularly if you're recovering from trauma, you're recovering from extended time in a hospitalizations, then opportunity or purposefully getting outside help you or help us heal from the challenging hardship. In terms of memory and learning, about more cognition aspects, this is helpful in terms of by getting outside, you're more pay attention, directed attention, able to put more attention on given tasks. So perhaps you might be able to complete a task, or computer work, or reading work, exams, much effectively, and your performance level should go up due to the ability to pay attention. And also, memory learning talks about school greens and nature scenes being studied, and it sees association with the improvement memory learning by exposing those areas or seeing a natural environment. And there are actually a number of studies on also ADHD as well that they see the number of reduction rates of ADHD by exposing or exposing nature exposure help to reduce the cases of ADHD. So this is again for the kids aspects and social emotional well-being piece. One, and it's not only stress and anger management, and I think another interesting piece is that they can get along with better. You know, relationship skills can be learned by being outdoor, or communication. They feel able to communicate better. So those social emotional learning piece is noted and researched. Enhanced attention, it's gone up. This is same with adult. And then ADHD symptoms has reduced by spending time in nature. And the greener the setting is, the better. I think this might be something to keep in mind. Pristine area is reported the higher or stronger impact on the well-being, particularly like ability to pay attention. Due to the quietness, due to the more serene scenery that you are able to have access to instead of seeing a car or hearing a noise. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do have the opportunity to get to the greener or more pristine environment, this is something to look into. And one last slide with this kids benefits, health benefits in kids through nature is that better academic performance. I'm sure all the school teachers want to know, or parents want to see this, that getting kids outside allow them to learn better. They're boosting performance both in writing, reading, math, science, and social studies. It also helps enhance creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. So it's exciting news that they are able to research on this and able to actually measure. And then lastly, the view that school has perhaps is one of the important piece. It's also seeing the nature from the school building can foster academic success. That said, How are you all doing? Let's do a quick stretch. Okay. So I'm going to shift a little bit to sharing 3 cases of research more in details, because I thought it's very interesting to share. You might know this word, shinrin-yoku. Shinrin-yoku. This is a Japanese term, actually, the government in Japan established, and many studies done by Dr. Kwon Lee at Nippon Medical School in Tokyo. And it's interesting that he noted that they spend in Japan 93% of their time indoors. And it is leading many disorders, just like we have talked in the case of the United States. So in order to overcome this issue, one of the movements that the Japanese government putting time and effort and money to it is to figure out how nature could provide benefits or healing to people who work so hard. So there are now 62 official healing forests and 1,200 certified guides, with over 2.5 million people walking the healing forest trails as of 2018. Let's talk about the benefits of this. So just to be clear, Shinrin-yoku, it can be an activity that we could use as sort of guided nature walk, but instead of focusing on identifying plants or animals, they can be also introducing nature to feel, see, smell, and hear in completely another level. And Greg here today as well is a certified Shinrin-yoku facilitator, and he has done so many other facilitation as well, but really allow us to deeply connect with nature by having a facilitated experience in natural environment. It could be touching leaves to pair share activities to there's just so many activities you could do, and I had a privilege to be part of this his workshop. So if you're interested in check it out, his website, I may be able to post his link later in the different sites. And other piece that I wanted to highlight is not only there's a guided professionally guided walk, but also it's also considered to be a location. Shinrin-yoku, it could be an activity in a certain location. So the people could go, let's go Shinrin-yoku, like in Japanese term that they have been using, and meaning that let's just have a deep breathing at the beautiful natural place. And they usually have a Japanese cedar, smells really good, and fresh air is moist, and hearing different birding sound. Those are all the options. Yes, give me a second. Yes.
Dinner ready.
Okay, I will be there. Can you start it, please? Okay, I will be there after finish this. Okay. Coming back. So, what is the research findings of Shinrin-yoku? Shinrin-yoku can be seen as a preventative medicine, or nature exposure in general can be the preventative medicine. And in the researcher Japan have looked up many of the physiological impact, saliva cortisols, blood pressures, so does nerve system, to see what's happening. And many results have finding very interesting. That they have seen the reduction of cortisol level, decreasing blood pressure, increasing natural killer cell, which leads to actually fight cancer. And then many of these are actually not only reducing the stress, improving immune system. That is, I think, a powerful finding. And one of the aspects I wanted to highlight is that because these studies are fully supported by Japanese government, such as bringing group of study participants to forests for multiple days at a time through bus, and they are highly controlled. Sort of they could. It is field-based research, but very much lab style experimental studies. They're repeated multiple times, and the findings are actually aligned quite a bit. Many of them studies align with what we were seeing in the United States and many other countries. So it is a really good sign that finding results, they are aligning and repeating, and meaning that this whole power of nature or the benefit of nature is replicable. It could be seen in many other places in the whole different parts of the world. Some studies support the not only seeing the reduction of blood pressure, but lower stress, but also this improving cardiovascular health and lowering blood sugar level and also improving concentration, memory, and energy, which is aligned with what other studies. The other piece that are very interesting aspects, again, the scent of the cedar. I'm closing eyes, kind of imagining that smell. It is so subtle, almost like eucalyptus tree, but it's really different. It's the scent that allow us to actually calm and heal. And the studies found that this thing's called phytoncides. I hope I'm reading right. In a cedar and a cypress has been shown to have a calming effects on people, as well as providing a boost to the immune system, with the one study having showing 53 increase in the count of the body's natural killer cell after 2 days in these forests. So I thought it was interesting to share. And another interesting aspect I wanted to share is this impact of a reduction of stress actually lasted for 1 day visit to nature lasted for about 1 week. And for a few days visits lasted about 30 days. So again, interesting, how long is enough? Other most recent studies, this is not in Japan, but in England, which I have mentioned in a promo video, which is very important, that after they're looking at over 20,000 people's data, it's a generalizable sample in England, they traced the whole week worth of activities in it, how long they actually spend time in natural environment for free time. And they found that if they are spending 120 minutes or longer, the health impact, both the physical, mental, physical impact is much greater. So I'd like to say, if, we used to say, doctor might say the 5 servings of vegetable to fruits is needed a day in the plate, then I would like to add 120 minutes per week worth of nature time. That's something needs to be prescribed. In fact, some doctor actually prescribe that, like UCSF and many other places. Last 2 cases I'd like to highlight, that is my studies. I have had a privilege to work with these amazing students in our campus. And I also worked with the biologists, young biologists. They are graduate students or post-bachelors. Helped me work with this partnership project with the local parks. So we worked with the San Francisco Recreation Park Department, SFRPD, as well as the East Bay Regional Park District, to actually take a look at what is health benefits of their programs like a Healthy Park, Healthy People. Healthy Park, Healthy People is a movement, but are also branded in the way that let's take a walk with a community, group of community. And by guided facilitator, usually naturalist, and let's experience and feel the nature. So these studies, I was able to obtain a number of responses, surveys, and before and after, as well as taking saliva sample. And this shows that first, survey response shows that the blue line, the positive effect feeling has gone up. In other words, the feeling is better, more positive as a result of a 1.5 hours of nature walk. And on the other hand, the nature negative feeling has a decline as a result of the walk, after the walk. So this was both statistically significant. And the second portion is the perceived self-reported stress also showed a slight decline. And then biggest finding for me was the cortisol also showed that there's a decline in cortisol concentration, which is an indicator of the physiological stress level. So this is great. It's exciting to see some alignment with the many other studies. Particularly, this was done with a population of low-income communities, as well as many of them are people of color. This study leads to the another setting, which is 3 months long. This may be just quick information for you. Some of you may be not familiar with the cortisol from saliva sample. Usually captures only short momentum stress level, which is, after immediately after the walk, you might feel better, but is it lasting? Is it lasting in months or 2 months and 3 months? And is it going to help for issues that are there actually we are facing, which is chronic illness, that's include chronic stress. So the study leads to a longer, and let's see whether these continuous guided walk could help their 3 months long help their stress level, chronic stress level over time of 3 months. So we put this, working with the park, I put this 2-hour guided nature walk every other week for 3 months. And we collected a hair, saliva sample of cortisol level to capture cortisol. And top of that, observed participants as well as captured surveys. And here we go. Day by day, you see the number of week 1 or program 1. So first, second, third, fourth, each of the program you see the decline in the level of a perceived self-reported stress, except this time. But generally, there's a good news. And in fact, statistically, there was shows differences accumulatively. So if we looked at the beginning of the 3 month, at the end of the 3 month, there's a significant decline on the perceived stress, which is great news. The real question is, how about the physiological impact, physiological indicators? Well, ta-da, it's a not exciting finding because there's a not declining nor not significantly, statistically significantly declining. So in contrast to the self-reported stress, physiological change wasn't statistically significant. What should we do? Well, what does this mean? There are a lot of factors perhaps goes into this finding. And one perhaps is to say that during this time of 3 months, there's a multiple political actions and changes happen at the national level, such as like increasing fear of immigration persecution, which is quite a bit of concerns and fear that this particular population was facing. It was I believe, recently, at that time, the Trump administration took over the office and made multiple changes at the policy level. So that could be part of it. And the second piece, the major factor that I want to highlight at this moment was the potentially there's they're already facing the chronic stress to start with. One of the indicators shows, which is the saliva sample that we collected multi-days for multiple times a day. This shows that the curve of the saliva cortisol level, which usually if you are a healthy individual, start the day very low. As soon as you wake up, it goes after 30 minutes waking up, the numbers goes up and it gradually goes down as the day goes. That is biologically showing that it is a healthy individual's cortisol level changes that's collected by saliva. However, this population, we found that some of them are having this normal curved. However, many of them had these irregular patterns, which indicated that there might be reason that there are chronically stress that they are facing. But all in all, we did interviews and so on to really fully understand what they are facing and what this number means. People talked about how important it is for them to learn about these parks exist around their houses. And it is a motivation for them to walk with their community members, and they want to walk more and they feel healthier, they feel less stressful. At least they are commented. So let's end with this session with the imagery exercise. Whew. It's now your turn to speak up, share, and again, this challenge by choice, I would like you to join as much as you can. So this imagery exercise, I'd like you to think about this question. What is a meaningful moment in nature that you truly enjoyed? All right. So I'd like to invite you to first just to find a comfortable position, so sitting or lying down, and to go ahead and close your eyes, noticing how you're feeling right at the second, because lots of information comes to your brain, and maybe it's a little bit information fatigue. That's physically, emotionally, how you're feeling. And breathing through your nose and let it out through your mouth. Let's do it again. Breathing calmness. Let it out through your mouth. One more time. Excellent. Let's continue, close your eyes, and now begin to create a picture in your mind that was meaningful for you in the nature that you truly enjoyed. Imagine a place in nature where you are fully immersed. And maybe this could be in a place, a backyard, a park, on a camping, or a favorite place that you have visited. Go ahead and picture that site, place where you might feel happy and calm. And let's listen. What do you hear at that place? What kind of sound comes to your ears? And what is the air temperature? Is it windy or breeze? What do you see in that place? Do you see what type of nature? Is it tree? Is it ocean? Is it mountains? Is it the granite rocks? Just take a moment to really visualize what kind of things you can touch, what kind of textures do you feel. And perhaps you taste the flavor of air at the same time. Okay. So if you're ready, go ahead and do the last one more breathing exercise. Breathe in and breathe out from your nose. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for participating. So let's take a moment to share, and I'm gonna put you all in a pair share small groups, and go ahead and share 2 minutes at a time in terms of where were you and what was meaningful about your experience in nature. And let's say 2 minutes passed. Okay. So welcome back. Thank you for sharing to each other. And those people who are following, looking at this video, please go ahead and actually pause this moment and then sharing or writing down your thoughts to your notes so that you can perhaps remember it and you can perhaps share it to the entire group. So go ahead and use the chat box and write it down. And there are many beautiful things being already said. It was meaningful. It was a calmness that was meaningful. It was a beautiful sight. Thank you. Lots of great ideas. Let's move us forward with this strategies. What can we do to maximizing the potential of getting a best health benefits in a natural environment? So I'm going to have a quick quiz here, and there's no points you can lose or gain, sorry. But it's just to talk about this. So number one, is it better for you to choose a green space or blue space, such as like ocean, lakes? Research shows that, as I said at the beginning in this presentation, both are equally, or shouldn't say equally, both are very important, has a positive impacts, particularly stress reductions and calmness and direct attentions and so on. So I have to say both are important. And then you choose your own adventure and places that you want to go. Wilderness or urban parks? This is a hard one because many studies shows the pristineness really gives you a deeper experience or different aspects of experience. But you know, when you look at the frequency and how often we could go, which is 120 minutes a week, that's all we want to go, then we cannot be spending time or traveling to wilderness every week. So in a sense, I would highly encourage both are, and again, equally important. And if you could go every day, 20 minutes a day, get outside for your free time, not calling, not listening on radio, but just gaze and spend time in the outdoor environment. Do you think it's better to be in a greenway or busy street? And it is absolutely, I would support, you probably know the answer, the greenway. Because of the noise, because of the view. And the last part is, last three parts. Exercising is better or meditating is better in the outdoor environment, natural environment. This is a really hard one. Both are, again, very positive, and particularly exercise, physical exercise is difficult to gain. So you could combine, perhaps that might be a great idea. One of the time would be the fast walking, and then some point you can add a meditation into the long walk. So that gave you both at the same time. And both of that exercise and meditation has a different, perhaps, impact in your health. And we've been talking about just 120 minutes a week. Is it better to do just once in 120 minutes straight? Or the splitting into multiple times to accumulate 120? And actually, research shows that both are not have significant differences. So if you don't have a time to spend every day, perhaps dedicate the one of the weekends, for instance, to go outside for 120 minutes minimum. And is it better to be going alone or with other people? Again, both are very important to do, yet having another group of people, like a family member, friends, allow you to actually motivate you to go get outside. And that is important for you to get motivated, but for you to motivate other people. To the end, my sort of take-home message to you perhaps is to be intentional about the way you go, what to listen, where you gaze, what you smell. It's your choice to stop looking at a plant. It's a choice for you to smell the flower that you might see on that street, and be intentional about it, and to remember to breathe. This is a beautiful poem that I want to share someday, and I highly recommend to check it out. Due to this limited time, I would like to close this presentation by saying, well, simply thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for spending time with me and with all of us. You know, nature is around us, around you, and you can also create inside of you. So to the end, most importantly, please remember, turn off this computer right away as soon as this presentation is over, and get outside so that you can maximize health potential. And that's your choice. That's intentional. So that would be the wisdom that if I could, I would love to share. Thank you again so much for your time. And thank you, Dr. Pepper, for the opportunity for us to all be together. And thank you, and be safe, and hope you have a great summer.